welcome all to the toppers talk. We have Kush with us, and Kush has secured 11th rank in this year's UPSC 2023 examination. And Kush has been consistently scoring pretty well in interview. Kush has also qualified this exam twice in the past, and this will help us get a good enough understanding about how we are going to approach this exam. And I'm sure the experience that Kush has had will help all of us quite a bit. So welcome, Kush, to the meeting. It's so nice to see you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the introduction.
So, Kush, to begin with,
Yes,
what do you think initially? What was in the mind that you chose to? Because Kush is from IIT, and I'm sure there would have been placement prospects and all. So, how about UPSC? What was the major motivation?
the major motivation for me has always been with respect to using my background in technology to improve, say, to make an impact in public service delivery, to improve governance, to improve administration, and so on. So that has been a constant and a major motivation. And this was built over the course of my work experience, wherein I was working on problems, wherein I was working on projects for improving public service delivery.
Okay,
But yes, but those were primarily for clients based outside India.
okay. So that must have been a good experience, I'm sure.
Yes, thank you.
Perfect. Okay, Kush. Then one more thing. So, if somebody is starting this year, uh, because I know you have had a decent experience and you have qualified this exam. So normally, what would be your do's first? That what should people do if they're starting this year? Say those of our students who might be appearing 2025. What will be your general suggestions?
Right. So a general suggestion would be to not look at, say, the three stages of the examination separately, to look at them holistically, and specifically prelims and mains, right? To prepare for both of those things together in a way that is comprehensive, in a way that will help you write answers, will help you prepare for mains and so on. Because yeah, so that would be one thing. Apart from that, I believe that there's ample amount of content available out there, ample amount of institutes which have their strategies. So I don't think
Yeah, no, not about
yeah,
strategy and not about content, but in general, like one good thing you suggested, that's a very good thing that it should be a holistic preparation and we should not be looking at it the way sometimes people look at it.
silos, yes, I do think that that should be an important part of the approach.
Right. And between prelims and mains, because this year I think there will be an even lesser time, maybe
Right,
90 odd days. But between prelims and mains, how do you suggest your optional was maths? So I'm sure that was another challenge for you because maths has no overlap with a GS paper. Uh,
right.
you know, but generally between prelims and mains, what will be your suggestion about how to manage the time and so on?
Right. So that's where the point that I mentioned earlier, the holistic preparation, that's where it will come in the most, because as you said, time is less and it's only reducing. It's earlier it used to be higher. Now I think it's around 120 days.
Yeah.
And today someone told me that next year it will be even lesser.
Yeah, even
So
this year, because of the exam being extended,
yes,
it's around
yes,
something like 90 odd days that we see.
right, yes. So that's where holistic preparation would come in a lot. And a lot of time of these 90 odd days, I think, would be well spent practicing a lot, attempting a lot of like answer writing, doing a lot of answer writing, or not answer writing in isolation, but as a part of tests. Whether you want to
Yeah,
do 20 questions altogether, or whether you want to break it down into five and to four, that's your choice. But uh, random answer writing one, two questions, I don't think is the most ideal way to spend time. So a lot
right.
of practice, if you are practicing a lot, you can break down your paper into, say, four parts and do it and so on. But apart from that, if you are, if the approach has been holistic, then a lot of time in these would be spent on revision, would be spent on figuring out what are the value additions that would be useful.
Right.
and also focusing on the subjects that are not common between prelims and mains, right? Such as there is society in GS1, there is
Mm,
international relations in GS2, this is
correct.
disaster management, internal security, and so on in GS3. International relations in GS2, yes. So, and obviously ethics is not common. So a lot of time would go there. So I think the subjects that are common there, I think the approach should be that uh, the time between should be spent on revision and not on starting from scratch.
Correct, correct. That's again a very good suggestion you give, that mainly answer writing should be one key focus area. And
Right,
very correctly you mentioned that if you meant answer right for a couple of answers, I don't think it's going to help in a 20-question paper.
right,
You need a practice. True,
right.
true. Very, very, very correctly put. Very correctly put. Also, one thing, just quickly asking you, that people say that maths optional syllabus is very vast. I have no clue. I'm an economics person, but I'm sure you can guide people that is it actually something that, because some of my students ask me in GS and all that, so it's a 6 month syllabus and how to go about it. Can you give some guidelines on that? That if can something be done about it, the maths optional syllabus,
Right.
or
So,
one has to sit down?
so it is vast, and
Right,
there's that risk and reward. The reward is that potentially it will be very scoring,
right,
uh, but there's always that uncertainty. And even if you complete the syllabus and even if you do the paper very well, there's no guarantee that you'll get good marks. I know a lot of people who have done very well over the years,
right.
across the years with maths optional, and still their scores have not been the astronomically high scores that people see uh, while taking maths optional. So that uncertainty is there. But having said that, uh, there is, with respect to very high scores, there is uncertainty. But with respect to, say, median scores, I believe there is quite a bit of certainty
Okay.
with respect to maths optional. Yes. So that is, I mean, everything has its pros and cons. So here,
So just on the risk of being repetitive, but I think then what I'm just simplifying it for the listeners maybe who will listen to us later, that maybe then what you imply is that the first target should be to score that decent median, so that that will mean that you are ahead of other optionals anyways, or you're matching up to them anyways.
right. So no, I believe that if you're considering taking maths optional, then you have to think about the decision comprehensively. You have
Okay.
to go through the syllabus. You have to go through the previous year's papers with respect to how they are. And only if you feel that you're comfortable with one or two topics, then you should go ahead. And you should bear in mind that yes, the volume of syllabus is a little higher, or it
Mm,
is amongst the highest, right?
mm.
And and then once you start, then your aim should not be to get median marks. Your aim should be to get the highest possible marks.
Okay. Okay.
Yes. But
Fair enough. Fair enough.
you should put
So
in you should put in a decent amount of thought before going ahead with the choice.
right, that one should be said. That I think applies on all the optionals that we go for. That
Right,
unless
right,
you're not certain about the optional, it's not a very good idea to go
right,
for
right.
it. Yeah.
We can never, and yeah, I guess this also applies to all optional, right? We should never aim for median marks. We should aim for to do
Yeah.
the best
Yeah.
that
No, no.
we
What I
can.
implied was that sometimes what people try doing is that before they have covered the basics, because I take economics optional. So
Right,
sometimes I see that before people go for the basics, they try going for those questions that are supposedly the tougher ones of the syllabus.
right,
So I always suggest to my students that first what you should do is make sure that your basics are in place. And
right,
it's only when your basics are clear that then you can take the next step and then the next step. And of course, by the time the mains exam arrives, you will be in a zone where you will be, uh, if everything remains good, then you will be scoring pretty high. But then, that so I implied in that manner that when I said that first go for a score where you can find it comprehensively clear, and then maybe you can always keep upgrading, because for mains, for a thoughtful student, it's always a year in hand. So I think a year can be a good enough time to go for it.
right.
Okay. So the next thing then, just going further than that, what will be generally or what used to be your strategy given your interview? I mean, we have seen that you have been scoring pretty consistently high in interview, around 200 plus. So what had been your strategy?
Right. So I've been fortunate to score 200 plus thrice.
Right.
Um, right. So again, I believe that that holistic approach helps here also. A comprehensive coverage to prelims, mains, because a lot of the content, you obviously while preparing for prelims and mains, we can't think about the interview, right? But but a lot of people say that, I mean, a lot of people have personally told me that what you studied in mains is not important for the interview. I completely disagree. I think
Mm.
it's important. In fact, for interview, I've revised my mains notes, whether it is economy, whether it is polity, whether it is uh, history and art and culture too, which people would say is not important for interview, but I've done it nevertheless, and I think it's helped me. It's helped me in the sense that first, it's helped me give confidence. It's helped me uh, ensure that I go in with a certain amount of confidence. I go in with a certain amount of composure,
True.
knowing that I would be able to answer a lot of questions that may be asked to me, right? Uh, Secondly, a comprehensive coverage of current affairs is very important, especially and sometimes leading up to the interview. It may not be as important for prelims and mains, but I think for interview it becomes more important. Thirdly, I think uh, obviously there are certain topics in which we have to pay more attention to uh, for while preparing for the interview. One such topic is international relations. There may be more other topics. And
Right.
finally, what I think is most important is two things. One, staying confident, staying calm, staying composed, smiling. And secondly, I think structuring your answers, putting across your answers in such a way that the core demand of the question, the core aspect of the question is answered.
Hmm.
And the answer is easy for the person who is listening to sort of break down, to dissect, to understand what I'm saying. I think that is more important in prelims than in interview. Sorry, in mains than an interview. Because in mains, if there's a question, and if I say if there's a question like, what is the reasons for XYZ, or what are the things that need to be done for ABC? If I write the answer as these steps may be divided into four categories: category one, category two, category three, category four. And then in each of these four categories, I write 1 point or 2 points. In mains,
Hmm.
that is not appreciated, because in mains, the person is going to read the answer, and
Hmm.
whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or whether it's category one, two, category three, category four, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, it does not matter as much. But
Hmm.
in a conversational way, I think that makes a lot of difference. And while preparing for the interviews, I've always tried to sort of, I've actually written down answers. I've tried to do voice typing. uh,
Okay.
I I read a question and then I dictate the answer and I voice type it into a Google Doc or something like that, and then I format it as per a correct structure, or I type down the answer and then I think about how better I can structure that answer. Right? If it's related to water, then write down one answer and then I think about, oh, what can be a better structure to this?
Hmm.
What is needed for Indian economy to grow? I write down 10 points and then I think of what can be a structure to fit these 10 points, right? Which may not be as important in mains, but it makes all the difference in the interview. Whether it's questions related to environment, whether it's questions related to uh, international relations, whether it's economy, I think all of these places, I think this is something that makes a lot of difference. It has helped me. In addition to what I said in the beginning about, yeah,
Perfect. Perfect. I'm sure this will be very useful for many students.
right,
One more thing, just on your interview again, that
right,
you know, I know that interview passes in a jiffy. I mean, once you are inside the hall, it goes very nicely, quickly,
right,
kind of like people come out and then that's the normal experience. So, how was
right.
your experience over these three interviews? How was the board, and how did you have the interaction? If you could share a few things.
Right. So, yes, as you rightly said, it passes in a jiffy. In fact, you feel that, oh, it didn't even last for 20 minutes, 25 minutes. So that's true. And yeah, but I think it's up to us to make the most of that time. It's up to us to spend the 3 months preceding the interview preparing in such a way that we are able to make the most of that time.
Yeah, I'll just ask you one thing here. that when you finish mains, I know that physically and mentally people are exhausted as they
Right,
finish mains.
right,
But what would you suggest that after how much of a break people should consciously start preparing, reading things a little? Because I believe that there can be some conscious reading that can be done, may not necessarily be the syllabus immediately. So would you
right.
do something like that, some book reading or something like that?
So after mains, because as you said, it's very tiring, it's
It
exhausting.
is
I would personally have always taken at least a few weeks break before
correct.
getting into starting my preparation for the interview and so on. So I think that is something that I'd recommend to everyone because
Okay, and
after
normally would it be? I'm sorry, I interrupted. Normally,
yeah.
would it be after your mains results would come, or you would start a little earlier than that?
No, I think ideally we should start a little earlier because the
Okay,
mains result may take time, and if you're waiting for the mains result, like this time it was, I think this time there was a very little gap between mains result
true.
and the first interview, right?
Right,
Uh,
very little.
and the people who had their interviews in the first, I had my interview in the second or maybe in the beginning of the third week. So,
Okay,
and it's not like the first week, so it's not the earliest, but it's still relatively early, right? My interview was on Jan 18th, if I'm not mistaken.
that was still early because I think you would
Yeah.
have got hardly 30 odd days.
Right. So
Right,
I think if you are waiting for results to start preparing, I don't think that's the best idea. And
right,
that's where what I mentioned earlier comes in, right? A lot of people feel that, oh, why should I start preparing for interview if I may not qualify? Firstly, I think that yeah, we should give our best and be optimistic. But secondly, I think that a lot of preparation for interview is not very different for what we'd be preparing for mains, right? As I mentioned earlier, I
true.
went
Very
through
correctly
my
said.
notes for mains for my interview preparation also. For example, I mean, for economy, well, been referring to Mrinal sir's notes. So I went through that after my mains to get ready for the interview, and I improved that as I with respect to any recent updates that may have happened, which I felt that may be important from an interview point of view, or which I may have to talk about, or which I would like to talk about, and so on, depending on the question. But likewise, that is something that you can easily start doing even before mains results are there, right?
Very
Because
true.
it's not as if that effort will go to waste. It will be useful.
Useful, yes. In any
Right,
case, when you are reading through things and your prelims is also getting prepared, just in case the need arises. And
right,
uh,
right,
just one more thing there, that
right.
how about when you're preparing for the interview, and you are going for things. So
Right.
most of the candidates go for two newspapers or three newspapers. Would you stick to one, or did you also go for a couple of newspapers or something?
I typically used I've typically been reading two newspapers. One would be something like an Indian Express, and one would be something like an Economic Times.
Okay, okay. So
Right.
that would be your normal zone of preparation
Right, for the interview. Yes.
for the interview. Yes. Perfect.
Yes.
I got to know one more thing from the team that was feeding me on you, that you had some very nice improvement in your GS marks. Uh,
Right.
that you did there. So something different that you did. I think you had an improvement of more than 75 odd marks over these attempts.
Right. So from my first attempt, wherein I had a good score in the interview, I had about 360 odd marks in GS. I don't
Right.
remember the exact score, and about 250, 260 odd marks in optional.
Okay.
My effort was always key. I have to maintain the place. I have to maintain whatever marks that I've received well, whether it is a particular GS subject or whether it is the interview marks. And where I've received less marks, I have to try and improve that. So towards that, my effort was to sort of take GS from 360 to, so in the second time when I cleared the exam, 360 went to around 400. And this
Okay.
time I think it went to around 436, if I remember
Yeah,
correctly.
that's a very decent
430,
improvement.
435 to 436. And optional, it approximately, it didn't improve as much as I would have liked or as much effort I put in, because I know last year I put in a lot of effort and I did the paper well also. But it also led to a good 15 20 odd marks improvement. And interview, I've tried to maintain the the good scores that I received, and I've been fortunate in maintaining that.
Right, right. So normally in GS, you stuck to what you were doing. You just did you do more answer writing or something like that?
Right. So between my first and the second attempt, I made a I tried to improve on a lot of things, including say more content, including speed, including presentation, and I do not know, including value additions, and I was successful to varying extents across all of these. I think content is one place where I manage, where I was at a very good place last year also. My answers have been very heavy on content as, yeah.
Right.
And I tried to maintain that this year also. Where I tried to work on from last year to this year was firstly a lot more practice. Um,
Okay.
Secondly, making sure that the presentation is in such a way that the value additions that I'm trying to do are visible or in context and so on. And thirdly, this is more specific to ethics. Making sure that the examples that I'm giving, or making sure that the anecdotes I'm giving in my answers, they are rightly contextualized. They are uh, with respect to, say, why the question has been asked, or with respect to the flow of the answer and so on. Because
Right.
yeah, in GS, I mean, obviously in GS also that is important, but not as important as it is in ethics.
Okay. Okay. And just one more thing that I would like to know that did you do some specific preparation for essay, or did the content development come organically with your preparation of the examination entirely?
Right. So no specific preparation for essay per se,
Right.
except practice and except. So last year I did this thing with a friend where every day we used to pick one topic, and then we didn't write the entire uh, essay. We just sort of brainstormed an outline and then discussed that with each other. So something like this may be considered specific preparation for essay, but
Okay. Okay.
but apart from that, just practice. I mean, the
Right.
examples would I typically drew most of my examples for essay from ethics, from science and tech, from art and culture, and from economy.
Okay. Okay. And then you would insert it there and get
Right,
it right.
right,
Just one more part there. Now, I just come because you've been taking this exam for some time, and
right.
you've been successful too. That's what I was seeing through your, the information I got. So tell me one thing that will be very beneficial for students. That when you are in this exam for a long time, now we know the answer, but when you guys say it, people go for it better. What should be the major method? Like there are people who may not have qualified first attempt, or sometimes the
Right.
prelims last year was pretty tough. So what will you give, normal suggestion to the prospective candidates that this coming year prelims or even otherwise their preparation? So what should be in the mind that in a long haul journey like UPSC, like the success thing may not come to you in the first go. So how do they keep themselves motivated? Everybody will have different methods, but what was your method? That what would be your method of remaining motivated and going ahead?
Right. So I think it's very important to think about why you started with
Very true.
the process in the first place. And then it's very important to focus on the things that have been working well. There may be things that may be working well, there may be things that may not be working well. So the idea must be to sort of try and maintain the things that are working well, and the things that are not working well, figuring out A, why they are not working well, and B, how can what can I as a person do to improve that, and see doing that. So both of these things become very important, right? For example, in mains, I've seen uh, I've seen this with a lot of my friends and colleagues too. That, for example, in a particular year, their GS marks are very good,
Mm.
and so, for example, in a particular year, someone's GS1 marks are very good, and GS2 or 3 marks are not as good. So in they try to focus on GS2 and GS3, and in that process, in the next time GS1 marks go down. I think this has happened with a lot of people this year.
Yes,
So
yes.
I think as important as trying to improve the things that are not working well, it's equally important to focus on the things that are working well and maintaining that, because one, that is going to be very helpful in terms of results, and two, because that's also a very important, that's also a very big motivating factor, right? Because you feel that, oh, this has been working well, and if I maintain that, if I replicate that, then that the fact that you did well in GS1 once, that helps you motivate yourself to sort of try and replicate that. So it's equally important to focus on that too, and that would also answer a part of your question.
Right. Uh, in the end, just give us a normal feedback about what students should not do in their preparation.
One thing is not spend a lot of time on current affairs. I think,
Very correctly said.
yeah. But apart from that, instead of what students should not do, another way I would try to answer that question is uh, a different style of uh, learning works for different people, right?
Mhm.
And what you should try to do is, instead of, or what you should not do is not try to pick up a style that's worked for someone else and implement it as is. What you should try to do is try to figure out what works best for you. Try to figure out how best you are uh, understanding or you are learning a particular subject, whether it is, say, polity from Lakshmikant or economy or anything else, and then focus on that. Because a lot of time is wasted on trying to uh, follow an approach that may have worked for someone else in the past, but it
Right.
may not work for you. And that is the reason why I am extremely, why I've been extremely reluctant in sort of sharing my approach or my
True.
strategy. Because I know that it'll be different for everyone, and if I just share that, then it'll just add to the confusion for an aspirant, because it may not
Absolutely
work for them. So what they
correctly
should
said,
not do
Coach.
is blindly try to pick up something that has worked for everyone, and instead try to figure out uh, uh, what is it that works for them. How is it that they remember what they're studying best? For someone,
Correct.
it may be making notes physically. For someone, in a notebook. For someone, it may be making notes digitally. Digitally, everyone has different ways of making notes. For example, a friend of mine works with, I'm forgetting the name of that application, uh, which he really likes, and that has really helped him. He qualified a couple of years back. Um, for someone else, it may just be highlighting things in Lakshmikant and then going over Lakshmikant again and again, right? For example, personally, I have not picked up Lakshmikant or spectrum in the longest time, because I have tried to make my own version of notes from them, and they're not handwritten, they are digital, but they're not in a well organized format. That worked for me, and I would not recommend. I mean, it is unlikely, the same way it worked for me, it is unlikely that it will work for someone else, right? So I think that is very important.
Perfect. You actually brought up a very correct point. This is something that I keep saying in my classes also, that you can take the commonalities from all the people you are listening to, but end of the day, it is you. So you will have to figure your own way out.
Right.
Uh, and but that's very correctly said, that your experience speaks in that. So well said, Kush. It was actually great interacting with you, Kush. I'm sure with your understanding and with your wisdom, many others will gain. But more importantly, what you have been saying are actually everything made sense. So I congratulate you also for that. I get a little worried taking these, sessions. Sometimes I see people go a little overboard, and that can at times be trouble. But you have been
Right.
very balanced, and you very correctly suggested things. I wish you all the best. I'm sure you will make a great officer. All the best.
Thank you so much for your wishes. Thank you.
Okay. God bless you.
Thank you so much.